Good evening, everyone. Um, as you know, today I'm not going to discuss and give a talk on normal, regular Samyutta Nikaya Suttas. Today I have chosen a very interesting and super important topic for all of us because as most of you are spending the last day of the year for the East, 31st of December 31st of the year. So I was thinking, why not I talk about some tips that Buddha talked about, in buying, purchasing environment. So I would say we could take a topic like seven. I have actually narrowed down to seven, pretty much everything. So seven Buddhist mindful shopping tips. So that could be very helpful to all of you, uh, everyone who is shopping any time of the year. Now, of course, we all are stepping into 2020, so it's really a good topic to discuss today. Anyways, now as you know, mindfulness. Now we talk about mindful shopping culture, right? Mindful shopping. So mindfulness is the big buzzword across the world for some time. So it's such a very popular word nowadays, far and wide. As you know, it's consciously observing your body and breath without judgment, right? So I'm in normal culture, we know it's mindfulness means observing your body and breath without judgments. So anyway, so when mindfulness is gaining ground in culture as a coping mechanism, it's like as a coping mechanism to deal with our feelings about anything, pretty much anything. It does not, only cater to things like liberation, nibbana. So it also deals with most of our secular normal day-to-day activities, like somebody could say it is mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful working, mindful driving. So it could be anything. It's pretty much anything. So the most important thing is that adding mindfulness to any aspect, whatever the aspect you like, so that you are mindful and you are performing well, you are doing better. So anyways, so mindful shopping appears to us in this cohort, in this big topic, right? So when everybody is very trying to be mindful, so why not it can apply to shopping culture. So that's why it has been such a very great thing even for shopping things. Now we know mindful shopping has also been gaining ground in many countries, among many, because we are seemingly, buying stuff impulsively and compulsively. So impulsive and compulsive buying, purchasing, approaches. So people may buy impulsively or compulsively. So then that's why shopping with mindfulness is such a very important, interesting thing that could help all of us. Also, when I was researching this topic, I found out now there's a bigger problem. Like, uh, in the whole world now, we don't tend to see, touch the real cash because of the digital money, right? So health-wise or medical research-wise, I also found out that the brain experiences a lot of discomfort when you use, you know, uh, cash money as opposed to digital money. That means brain experiences is going through a hard time when you use cash money, which in turns can, you know, release shoppers to buy anything at any, costly level without getting without getting their brains, you know, discomfort, right? So let's say when you use cash money, if the brain experiences discomfort when you use spending cash money as opposed to digital money, that means when you use digital money, it doesn't happen the same way. That means we have to be careful. That means you may use digital money like credit card stuff as much as you want. So that's why there is this topic going to be very important. So because we can't change the way how people spend, but we can talk about any failures, any issues, or any difficulties that everybody who is in this culture, especially in buying, facing with, dealing with. So what kind of like difficulties that we can see when someone is not mindfully buying? One of the things that we can see in many is buyer's remorse. So people are remorseful after bought it, right? Or after bought any merchandise stuff. So that means there shouldn't have been a kind of a right judgment or a proper estimate about what I'm gonna buy, how much I should have spent, but it didn't happen the same way. So there is remorse always for many. Also skewed financial priorities. So a lot of people, they are on a tight budget, right? So then they need to they need to do prioritize or write financial priorities. So if someone is actually not carrying their priorities, financial priorities, it's going to be a problem. And all in all, what these irregular or unmindful shopping things lead to in the future is it increases level of anxiety and unhappiness, and that causes everyone's to have these 7 tips. You may buy mindfully. You may reduce any any mistakes, any remorse, any unnecessary issues that can come up in the future. Okay, so the first tip I'm gonna share with you is looking into your senses and taking a breath before you buy anything. For example, I would say the moment you step into a shop, what happens is that your body's 5 senses, in Buddhism we add another 6 senses, contribute to an overall feeling, positive or negative, about the merchandise you interacting with. So I mean, how does it feel? How does it look like? How does it smell like? Right? So these sensations are mostly pleasurable to many, and then what happens? It can trigger a feeling of euphoria, right? Kind of a strong likeness and a strong compulsion to buy the product at the end. Like if you don't look into your senses and what the senses are trying to feel in different ways. It could be the smelling part, it could be the texture part, it could be the audible part, it could be whatever the aspects of the merchandise with your senses. If you don't take time to recognize what is this feeling like in terms of all the senses, then what happens? You are far more susceptible to this feeling of euphoria, and euphoria is a strong likeness, and then it's giving you to make a very compulsive buying, which is not a good thing. So before everything, I want to make sure that this idea of helping mindful buying or mindful shopping is for the people who are making bad judgments, who are making themselves unmindful when they are buying. Not for the people who go to the shops, who are mindful, who buy the needs and come back, right, without getting troubled by whatever the things in there. So the first thing is that first tip is the moment you step into a store, there are uh, different feelings that would come up within you because of your senses. Your senses are rising to a level to make a kind of a feeling of euphoria, and it will cause you to buy the product compulsively. So if you take time, what I'm telling is that if there is a if, if the product is not a need, if it is just a need, just a want, which is largely created by a lot of craving based desires, then what you have to do is, if you cannot take care of your mind, you may do a kind of a quick thing, like you can step outside the store, give yourself some minutes, some time, maybe some few minutes, and give a grace period to catch up. Your breath, like your breath is like having a hard time because you are gullible. You are, uh, you know, taken over by that pleasing feeling of euphoria or compulsion. If you give some time, at least you can step out, or you can give some time to think about what is this feeling like. That could really help you to understand. Oh, I don't need this product. It was just a bunch of feelings that cause this feeling for me to buy it compulsively. So that's the first tip. If any product is not your need, take time, uh, try to figure out what is your feeling like, and then to consciously observe your body sensitivity as merely that body sensations. I would say just figure out that this was just a response that arose because of this you know uh, plus, pleasing or whatever the compulsive thought, and then you are not letting that happen. So you are pretty good, and you are not you are not squandering your money. Okay, the second tip is to have a mindful shopping list, right? Before you go shopping. Now, I think for a lot of people, they don't have a mindful shopping list. Maybe some people, most of them may have a mindful shopping list, or maybe their spouses or somebody else making a note about what needs to be bought today. But what happens when they go into the shop or the grocery shop or wherever, they get distracted by the products. It could be the clearance, it could be anything else, because you're not pretty much focused on what you want to buy and why you came here. Because the shop has everything. It has the layout, it has everything to please you to buy more products, right? It's like the YouTube where you watching videos, and right after you watch the video that you want, there's an autoplay. You could see a bunch of other videos popping up on your right side, left side. Be careful. They're not bad, but if you don't have a good proper management about what you want to buy with your hard-earned money, and it's going to be a problem. So keep note of that. So have a mindful have a shopping list what to buy, and don't get bogged down by the stuff just because they look good, because you have needs and you are pretty much prioritizing what to buy, right? So the third tip is fear of missing out. We call it FOMO in the North American culture. So a lot of people think that I think a lot of people think if I don't buy this product, I will miss out on this product. Uh, One of the reasons why people are people having the fear of missing out is that they have a lot of comparison mentality. If I don't buy this, somebody else will buy this. I won't be able to buy this. Maybe most of the people nowadays, they are on social media, and they know what other people buy, because a lot of people, they post what they buy, right? So they feel like they get uh, uh, they get thoughts like thoughts for comparison. If I don't buy, this will happen to me, that will happen to me, my status will go down, my status will be like, and so forth. So this mentality. So I don't think we need to have a fear of missing out if we really know what we want to buy. So if we are really specific, if we really serious about what we want to buy, I mean, that's it. We don't need to uh, have any fear of missing out of any products in the stores, right? So that's one thing. So that's the third thing. Okay, the first thing is like you need to look into your five senses and take a breath before you buy if it is not necessary. Uh, if it is necessary or not necessary. The second tip is to have a shopping list. Third tip is don't have this fear of missing out. Right? If you are really serious, if you are really known to what you want to buy, you don't need this kind of fearing mentality. Okay, so just forego the fear of missing out. The fourth tip I want to recommend is satisfaction issue. I mean, this is the main thing that we all need to understand from the Buddhist teachings. So, if we deconstruct I, me, myself from what we want to buy as a want, because we know we all need to. You and your family need grocery. You and your family need the necessary what do you call like needs. Other than that, if you go for wants, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, wants are largely made up of a lot of like compulsive thoughts, which has sense of euphoria. So if you really know that I only want to meet my needs and I don't want to go for my wants, or like these are random rampant uh, you know thoughts or feelings that could cause me to think about a want, then you are really deconstructing you from those wants. So that means anatta. I mean, anatta is the biggest philosophy in the Buddhist teaching. So when you deconstruct you yourself from these products, then you are really practicing anatta, and then that helps you not to buy unnecessary, unwanted stuff that could squander your money. That's the fourth tip, right? Nowadays we talk about a digital detox, right? So I mean, a lot of people, they are hoarding the digital gadgets. So I think once in a while we have to think about kind of a like a digital detox when you detoxicate your unnecessary stuff. For healthy lives. At the same time, we have to think about how can I use a digital detox to clear away my unnecessary digital wants, right? Anyway, that's number 4. So tip number 5 is to consider other ways to treat you. Like whenever you want to buy something, like an unwanted thing, like a want, I would suggest you could consider other ways to substitute or replace your want. Let's say you feel you want to go to a shop and just to browse, and at the end what happens, you're going to end up in buying unnecessary stuff. Maybe you could go to a library just to check out the new books, recent arrivals. Maybe you could go for a walk, maybe you could do something else. I mean, you could kind of like change the way you think about your wants, and kind of attitude change that might really help you. So consider other ways to treat yourself, to go away from or take care of your unnecessary wants, right? Okay, so the tip number 6 is, this merchandise culture is very cynical sometimes, because it stocks up on the discounted products. Like when people go into a shop, what happens is that they get to see the clearance discounted stuff. when they go into the shop in the summer, they find out it's pretty expensive. But when they go into the shop in the winter, they could find this is very cheap now, discounted. Why I'm not gonna buy it? Sometimes it's not necessary. I mean, it's okay if you're gonna buy something which is really needy for you. But sometimes you simply because it was really high up in the summer, you're gonna buy it in the winter because it's too cheap, right? Which is not necessary. So you need to understand this cynical nature of sales. So that is kind of a really good thing to understand. Do not you know crave for any stocked up discounted products. So then you are really comfortable whether it is cheap or whatever, but it is not what I really want, and I know I could get that thing done in different ways. But if it is really something you really been needing for some time, you could go for that, but not as a normal habit every time when you go into a shop, simply because it was cheap, it was high, it was expensive before. You're gonna buy it because it's cheap now. Okay, so be careful about the cynical nature of some of the discounted clearance stuff. Number 7, this is the last tip I'm gonna share with you. Forgo window shopping. I mean, we all like to browse, which is window shop sometimes, but you know what happens? The biggest issue to many, the worst thing is that when window shopping is turning into real shopping, So it's okay, you do window shopping, but the problem is like if you develop a certain hidden liking towards the stuff that you just browsing, you just window shopping, it could be a problem. So because in the sales or in the shops, there is this visual merchandising, right? I mean, when you go into a big shop or a small shop, there is this music, lighting, and to the store layout, and they all inclined to buy stuff. And people, I mean, when everyone goes inside, uh, this whole visual merchandising atmosphere causes people to end up in buying unnecessary stuff. So you got to be careful. If you don't have a need to buy anything, don't just do window shopping. If you really want to buy something like as a need, just go for it. So these are the 7 tips I shared with you today for mindful shopping. Once again, I'm going to repeat you. The first tip I shared with you was to look into your 5 senses when you go into a shop, whether you are really looking for a need from the store, or with if it is just a feeling that is building up because of this euphoria or strong likeness, simply because there is a craving for that as a want. And take some time, and then give a grace period for your consciousness to understand what it is like. Second tip is to have a mindful shopping list. Keep a list. Make a list before you go shopping. Third tip is do not get swept up by the fear of missing out. Don't worry about fear of missing out, because if you really want to know what you want to buy, that's it. So that should be mostly a need. The fourth tip I was sharing with you was satisfaction thing, because nobody is satisfied to the fullest in the secular culture, especially when it comes to buying. But we have a big concept in the Buddhist teaching that's called anatta. So when you practice this anatta, that means when you deconstruct you from the product, from the merchandise culture, and you would certainly find out a better way, this mindful approach to buying what you really need, not what you want. So anatta concept. Use anatta concept all the time. The fifth tip was to find out, consider other ways to treat you. Don't just only think the merchandise only helps you to make you happy. make you well, and whatever the thinking. There are this many number of ways you can find out to consider yourself to be happy. Not Don't just limit it to narrow down it to buying an unwanted merchandise. Sixth tip I was sharing with you is look at the cynical nature of some of the sales and clearances. So be careful when you go into a shop from the clearances, because clearances might be helpful for you, but not all the time, because there is this cynical nature of taking people into the clearance so that they will end up in buying. Mostly they are not needy by that time, but if it is really a need, just go for it. But mostly I think they are not needs but wants. The last tip I was sharing with you: forgo window shopping, because it could turn out to turn into real shopping at any time. So you gotta be careful. So now you figure out, mindful shopping is such a big topic, and it's very important, because you don't need to end up in being super pro, or you don't need to end up in having trouble, issues with your partners. You don't need to end up in being remorseful. You don't need to end up in being anxious, being unhappy, because there is this mindful shopping from the Buddhist teachings, as Buddha said. I hope you understood this topic. Thank you so much, and have a happy new year. Wish you a happy new year 2020. Thank you. May the Triple Gem bless all of you for 2020.